Rocket companies: Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, Boeing, and, topping on the list, SpaceX. In collaboration with NASA, has aspirational plans to launch people back to orbital space, lander on Mars in 2024, and ultimately colonize the Red Planet. It is estimated that, to land on Mars, it will take up roughly 6 months on a one-way journey. Yes. You had me right. It takes half a year, on Earth calendar, to reach to Mars, even with all the high-tech available. But, with the rapid rate at which space technology is moving, I'm sure the duration will be lessened soon. However, astronauts may be exceptionally brave, intelligent, and accomplished, but they're not superhuman. They still have one common obstacle that even the damest person on Earth do, that is, to poop and pee when they leave Earth.
How do you go to the bathroom in 0G?
You always get these questions when you go speak to schools. You know, how do you live in space? How do you sleep? How do you eat? And the most popular question of all time, guess what it is?
Probably how to go to the bathroom.
How do you go to the bathroom in space? We're going to find that out today.
From peeing in a roll-on cuff to pooping into a bag. Let us look at a brief history of how astronauts have gone to the bathroom in space for 58 years. Peggy Whitson, a retired NASA astronaut, said, "Going to the bathroom was easily the worst part about life in space, being able to float is the best part," she said. As she explained to a Business Insider journalist, engineering toilets to function in microgravity is no easy task, and some of the very first hose hookups were only designed for men. In recent past, the US spent $19 million on a Russian toilet for the ISS, rather than bothering to make its own system, and that throne is still pretty tricky to use. NASA's first space toilet wasn't installed until Skylab, the US's first space station, launched in 1973. Yes, meaning the Apollo mission was not a pretty sight to say in terms of toilets, and I personally didn't want to talk about it in this video. Skylab supported 3 crewed space missions in 1973 and 1974, the last and longest one was 84 days. Since then, a variety of odd commodes have been used in space, including a $19 million Russian system that turns waste into drinking water on the International Space Station. The space shuttle was equipped with this $50,000 toilet called the Waste Collection System. Unlike on Earth, going to the bathroom in space is no easy task. Astronauts are trained and have to practice their aim over a tiny cup-sized hole before they leave Earth, using a camera for proper and accurate alignment, just learning how to hook up the necessary hose and baggie systems. If space race leader SpaceX or other companies could figure out how to engineer a better outer space bathroom system, astronauts would be a little more comfortable in space and, eventually, on their journeys out to Mars. That's why NASA is willing to invest in the innovation or initiative. But for now, the company seems intent on keeping whatever improvements or upgrades it may have or not provided to space bathrooms in a vacuum removed from public knowledge. When NASA started racing to put astronauts to the moon in the 1960s, humans first landed on the lunar surface almost exactly 51 years ago, on July 20, 1969. The agency didn't focus much on how the men would empty their bladders and bowels in space. The Gemini missions of the 1960s were the first time NASA attempted to deal with poop in space. The first devices made for this purpose were just bags that got taped to astronauts' butts. The toilet system still wasn't that easy to use. The opening was less than 4 inches wide, about a quarter of the size of a regular toilet hole. All astronauts have to be toilet trained on Earth first, and some test runs even included a special under-the-seat camera so they could perfect their aim. No paper was allowed in the toilet. But Whitson wants NASA to do better. "We want a closed-loop system, which means we have to recycle all our water," she said. "This may look tech stylish. The toilet doesn't have a perfect track record. In fact, disaster almost happened in May 2008 when it went out of order. Luckily, the solid waste function still worked, and a Soyuz spacecraft that was attached to the station at the time also had a toilet, but with limited capacity. For urine, astronaut had no option but to use bags in order to help themselves. The toilet breakdown was a problem, since it was the only one on the station at the time. 6 months later, this led to a whopping $19 million Russian-made toilet. Most expensive toilet ever made by man. Arrived at the IS and became the station's second commode. An alternative or best said second option. This vacuum cleaner look-alike design, waste and hygiene compartment was fired up to the International Space Station aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour. The Russian-built system is made to separately channels liquid and solid waste. Other options that NASA launched in a space poop challenge to solve potential problems that could arise if astronauts are strapped into spacesuits for days at a time, like on missions to Mars, say. This device took top prize. $15,000. The system uses a little access port on the crotch of a spacesuit or garment to which various bags or tubes could be attached to collect waste. This invention could also help astronauts change their underwear without taking off a spacesuit. Dr. Thatcher Carden worked nights and weekends on the prototypes with his wife and 2 teenage kids. NASA isn't ready to use Carden's system in its spacesuits, but said it might use some aspects to develop better ways for astronauts to relieve themselves in their suits in the future. If astronauts are ever in a situation in space where trauma is involved, like asteroid mining, you might want to have those ports there. NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson sometimes has tears in her eyes when she says she won't be going into space again. The former International Space Station boss has logged a whopping 665 floating days in space, more than any other American. It's clear from her beaming smile and boisterous frequent laughs that she loved nearly every aspect of the out-of-this-world job, from installing battery parts on the station's solar panels to sampling mysterious space microbes. The space station is not really a hotel yet. The floating on a zero-gravity looks super cool, but going to the toilet, as one may wonder, is not as straightforward and thriving as one can imagine. Going to space can be classified as going on a camp trip that is more like the Hunger Games. Just like docking the payload to the actual space station, everything must be done right. When accessing the ship's toilet. The very one thing we ignore and take for granted here on Earth. NASA's Peggy Whitson, an astronaut, explains to Hillary Bruick from Business Insider that toilets on the ISS is not quite as bad as the maximum absorbency garment, MAG.
Very fancy word for an adult diaper.
That astronauts sometimes had to use on missions like the Apollo moon trips. But the US $19,000 Russian-made toilet isn't exactly first class, either. There is a funnel that is equipped with a fun that suctions pee away so that it doesn't float off. The astronauts uses the yellow cones on the top right side of the photo. That's where the urine goes. The urine is stored and recycled for a period of 8 days for the same liquid to become drinking water again for one to drink. Which is, according to the conditions, is a preservative measure. But again, that's just for the urine part. If you have to do more than just urinate, things ain't simple and straightforward as that there on Earth. As for number 2. This is very challenging because you're trying to hit a pretty small target. ISS residents go to the bathroom into a little plate-sized hole on top of that silver can, using the fan to vacuum suck the excrement away. After the astronauts are done, the poop gets sealed up in a plastic bag to await on the next space trash day. Every once in a while, the whole process goes awry or the toilet malfunctions and the astronauts have to catch a floating turd. Awkward mess. But eventually, all that waste gets blasted off on a cargo ship that's jam-packed with this trash and sent on a burning suicide mission towards Earth's atmosphere. As for the urine, about 80 to 85% of that gets recycled into drinking water and the rest becomes binary waste. We want a closed-loop system, which means we have to recycle all our water, Whitson said. Perhaps that will be the next home improvement project on board the ISS. If space race leader SpaceX or other aspiring companies could figure out how to engineer a better outer space bathroom system, astronauts would be a little more comfortable in space and, eventually, on their journeys out to Mars. That's why NASA is willing to invest in the Innovation or Initiative. The agency issued a mission, dubbed HEROX Project, a platform where organizations can use crowdsourcing to find innovative solutions to complex problems. The design for the space toilet must adhere to certain specifications. For example, it must weigh less than 33 pounds in Earth's gravity, measure not more than 4.23 cubic feet, consume less than 70 watts of power, and accommodate both sexes. While we may know how to make space toilets, we recognize that there are a lot of innovations going on in waste management around the globe, from the no-flush toilet to waterless toilets and many other more, said Mike Interbartolo of NASA's Johnson Space Center. Start out, so we wanted to expand our knowledge base by using this challenge to find the unknowns that might be out there. End quote. We are looking forward to seeing what the crowdsourcing community can come up with. That is out of the box and bring different perspectives for what is needed for a toilet. The agency is offering a first, second, and third place, amounting to prize of $20,000, $10,000 and $5,000, respectively. The submission deadline is August 17, 2020, and the winner will be announced on September 30, 2020. So for the innovators and space enthusiasts, that is, one is up for the taking, can be accessed through the NASA links we'll put in the description link below. But for now, the company seems intent on keeping whatever improvements or upgrades it may have or not provided to space bathrooms in a vacuum, removed from public knowledge, and make them focus more on the journey itself. While space toilets are already in use at the International Space Station (ISS), they are specifically designed for microgravity, meaning people and objects appear to be weightless. But a mission to the moon would require a special design for the shuttle's toilets to work in lunar gravity, which is approximately 1/6 of Earth's gravity. Later on, the same concept will be used on other projects like the Mars tourism.
At 15 seconds, guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Shadow. 4 forward, drift into the right a little. 30 seconds forward, drift. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're going to be busy for a minute.
Armstrong is on the moon. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. On this July 20th, 1969.
That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful, Neil. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Beautiful view. Isn't that something? Magnificent sight out here. Magnificent desolation. Tranquility Base, Houston. Guidance recommendation is pings, and you're cleared for takeoff. Roger, understand. We're number 1 on the runway. 7, 6, 5, engine arm ascent. Beautiful. Very smooth. Very quiet ride. Apollo 11, this is Hornet, over. Apollo 1, this is Apollo 11, reading you loud and clear. Our position 1330.
Oh, it's too bad we can't demonstrate this on TV.
What a shame.
Okay, overboard dump coming up.
Here it comes. The constellation Orion. Now that's a beautiful sight.
Inasmuch as space exploration may be interesting, there are countless overlooked challenges that comes with the thrill of travel. Containment in space also comes with its corns. I have done a little more digging into it. If you would want an episode 2 of this, let me know in the comments section. What do you think about space travel? And the toilet in general? If you were a NASA designer, what designs would you have done better? If you know you have a better solution or even an idea of how poop and pee should be handled in space, let me know in the comments section below. Also like, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more deep space info and general technology trend news and documentaries. And of course, thanks for watching. For more, please be sure to subscribe so that you never get to miss once I upload new content. Till we meet again.